All right, everybody. What is going on in Sandpoint? The market, is it shifting in a good or positive route? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I have a special guest. You all know Whitney Pappas. She's been on this channel several times. She is not just a real estate agent up here, she's an associate broker, and she's one of the best real estate agents up here in North Idaho, by far none. So we're going to dive in and go over some topics about what the market is doing up here. And we're going to hear it directly from Whitney on how she's getting her clients successfully closing on deals and tips and tricks that she might have and share with you. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. And first, I want to talk about what the current market conditions are. What are they right now? So how would you describe our current housing market in North Idaho, specifically Sandpoint, Whitney?
Well, thanks for having me. As of right now, I would say that we're in a neutral, balanced market, and we have been for some time. Currently, we have about 6 months of inventory on the market. And really, even the housing prices have stayed fairly consistent over the last 12 months. We've been averaging about $350 a square foot, and that has really had very minor fluctuations over the last 12 months. Actually, if you look at the rolling data, the housing prices are up a little bit, about 5% from this time last year. So, and really just like the list price versus sales price has also remained fairly steady. We're seeing closings, homes sold at about 97.5% of their last list price. So very neutral. 6 months of inventory, meaning, it would, if we had just the inventory that's on the market right now and nothing new being added, in 6 months, we would run out of homes. And anything less than that is considered a seller's market. Anything more than that is a buyer's market. So it's really very stable and has been for some time.
And that's what's crazy. Like right now, at least when I'm talking to people are like, they're on two different sides of the aisle. It's the market's crashing because they see price drops, people cutting their prices, and like, great, housing prices, they're coming down. It's going to pop, like everyone's been saying for years. But then you get people on the other side of the aisle where they think that we have this huge like upswift in price. So why do you think prices are kind of staying level in our area right now?
Well, I will say that you are seeing some price reductions, but the price reductions that we're seeing are typically on homes that were overpriced to begin with. So if a home is priced well, which means, priced according to recent closed comps, then those homes are selling relatively quickly. I think average days on market is about 65 days, and that's across the board. If something's priced well, it will probably sell much faster than that. But we do have a couple of different factors feeding into the market where there are some homes that are overpriced. We definitely had like 2019, 2020, a boom in this area because of COVID. We had a lot of people moving here in a very short amount of time. Demand skyrocketed and housing prices skyrocketed as a result of that. Went up about, I think, 48% in 1 year. And so there's definitely some lingering feelings with sellers that, well, my house was worth this. It should still be worth this. I want to try for this higher number first. So where you're seeing those prices drop is typically on homes that maybe started higher than where their comps placed them, and they're lingering on the market. And so you're seeing those price reductions over time. Things that are priced well, you really aren't seeing a lot of price reductions. They're just selling for close to asking and moving on.
Yeah, it's, we have one client, we won't say names, of course, in case they catch this. We don't want them knowing that we're talking about them. But we have one client where it's a luxury house, and they had a couple bumps and bruises on the house, and they knew about it. And when we were talking about this price with them, we gave a price, and we'll keep that anonymous as well, and offering a credit for this defect of the home. And right before we go to list it, right, we get a phone call essentially and says, oh, we're going to actually go above where we were talking, and we're not going to offer that credit anymore. So kind of in the 11th hour, when we go to list, we get a completely different tone and trajectory of where this listing is going to go. And then what happens? We hit the market, and we got some showings out of the gates like expected. Everyone said it was overpriced, and then the showings, they just stop, they disappear, they dry up. And then we get a phone call after, I don't know, about 30 days or so, right? About 30 days.
Probably.
And it's, hey, what do we need to do to sell this house? And, we recommended going back down to that price that we talked about, and we did. So that's where a lot of people are seeing these price drops. And this is a perfect example of what you were just talking about, of not following the data. And when you're in a balanced market, when you're in a buyer's market, and I would say we're closer to a buyer's market than we are to a neutral market, and definitely not a seller's market. So when you're in that realm, it's really important to be close to what the data shows, because otherwise you're going to be chasing the market down. And you actually have a listing, and we won't mention again who it is or where it is, but this is kind of happening to them. They listed super high. They didn't listen to you. You've been on the market for a while, you're chasing the market down, and you're probably going to accept an offer lower than had it been just priced correctly.
Actually, we will 100% accept an offer lower. We actually had an offer at one point in time that is, was rejected by the seller, saying absolutely not, we're not desperate. And now their list price is actually lower than that offer was. So 100%, being priced according to recent closed comps is so important. I went to a listing appointment earlier this year, gave my opinion of value. They called me the next day and said, we loved you. You were our number 2 choice out of all the agents that we interviewed. It's just that this other agent gave us a higher valuation. And I said, okay, that's fine. And watched that one on the market for a really long time. They priced significantly higher, I think over $250,000 higher than what I said it should be valued at. And watched it, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, price drop. And I think they are pending now, and probably pending right around where I said
they
to price it.
I spoke to that agent, and
you did?
Yes, and because I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell me the sell price, but she did tell me that it's really close to what she suggested, which was very close to what you suggested as well. So, I guess I didn't tell you that, but yeah, I spoke to that agent, and you're right on it. Now, when we see these price drops, it's not all, houses sitting on the market not selling. It's not all due to the price. There's other factors out there. So, talk to me a little bit about affordability and mortgage rates, and just, I guess, in the third prong to this is just the uncertainty of the market and the world right now. So I guess I get asked you 2 questions right there. So let's just start with just the uncertainty that buyers are dealing with, and what role that is playing with a market that is moving a little bit slower than what we've seen in years past.
Sure. I'll circle back a little bit too. I mean, I don't want to say that all of the overpriced homes are just, people shooting for the stars on their prices. There is an affordability factor that actually plays into this on the seller side as well, where a lot of these people that are listing now bought in 2020 or 2021, and they bought at the height of the market with a low interest rate. And now if they go to sell and buy something else, maybe they got into that home at a 2.75% interest rate, and now they're looking at a 7.5% interest rate. That does massive things for their affordability. Plus they paid a lot for that house, which they're not going to be able to make right now. So not everyone is just, greedy. There are just factors that are playing into market conditions where some people are, trying to sell, but it won't sell at the price that they need. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Um,
real quick, I'll share a story about that. So the house I had over in Old Town, she bought it, I want to say in 2022, did a lot of upgrades to it. Husband unexpectedly passes away, and they spent all this money into this house, like a backup generator and everything, because this was their forever home. Like they weren't going to move anytime soon. And she decided to move back east, and so we listed, and we listed according to the comps and everything. And we finally get down to a price where we're getting constant showings. And now it's just a matter of time. But she was so anxious to get back east. When we got an offer, it was below than what she bought 2 years ago. But she was so anxious to get out of here that she actually accepted it. I was shocked and tried to advise her, like, if you want to wait and at least get out of this scotch free, you get your money back and everything. I think if you just wait a little bit. But anyway, she's like, nope, I got to get out of Sandpoint. I'll take it in the shorts a little bit and get out of here. And so, like, you do see some of that too when you're getting these 22 buyers, buyers from 2022 that are selling now. Some are willing to take a hit, some are not. But that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is part of the equation where some people are just trying to get out of here without taking a hit on the investment that they made. And unfortunately, like, as a buyer, you still got to think for you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to pay for their mistake to make it right by them. You got to do what makes sense for you. And sometimes that's why these houses up here are sitting a little bit longer.
Yeah, there's also a lot of people who are, like these clients that you had referenced that have chased the market down. When they listed, it was a long, long while ago, and they were like, we don't have to sell, we could sell, and, we would like to sell, maybe to do this or that, or, be without a mortgage, but we don't have to sell. And there's a lot of people that are in that mindset as well, where the market is still strong here. We're definitely not in, like, you have to give your house away. I've written multiple offers for cash buyers seeking to get a deal this year that were just outright rejected by the seller.
Why do you think our market is still strong?
I think that there's still plenty of demand for our area. I mean, we are in a resort town, so I think that where we are situated versus other parts of the country is different. Our little micro market here, it attracts a lot of second home owners, people maybe buying like a summer home or a winter place to ski Schweitzer. Now that Altera bought Schweitzer and there's all the development happening up there, there's a lot of people. I mean, you and I have a client that came in recently from way out of the area, and said, he's got billionaire clients in his industry, and he said that he was looking to make a change, and several of his billionaire clients suggested that he come and look at Sandpoint, Idaho. So there's a lot of money moving into this area, and people don't have to give their homes away.
What was the name of the island?
Turks and Kos.
Yeah, that's right, man. He showed us some photos of that, and nothing. If you live there, nothing against you, because it's preference. I love the mountains and the green. That place might be cool to visit, but I can imagine living there full time. I mean, it's basically like a desert island. That's kind of the impression I got, and I think he's been living there for about 20 years. Is that right? Maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, about right.
Yeah, and I think he wants to get out here. Excuse me, to I know, healthier life, and just get off the island and enjoy excuse me, different scenery. So anyways, yeah, no, that's a great take. So I agree, like, we're a destination, and even if we do see with some uncertainty around the world, our nation, there's some crazy stuff. We're not going to get political and get into any of that, because that's not what this channel is about. But with the political status and people definitely on edge of what's going to happen, what doesn't change in North Idaho, in my opinion, is we're still a destination. You got the resort town, you talked about Schweitzer and the lake and all that. But then what also is attractive to people in North Idaho when you're talking about this uncertainty is we tend to, as a group, as a community up here, lean more conservative with freedoms and things of that nature. And so when what we saw in COVID and what we're still seeing today as, California, Washington, Oregon, wherever you're living, where they get a little bit constraint on your freedoms, and do some policies that you just don't agree to, people are flocking here because it aligns a little bit more with their beliefs are and freedoms. And I think because of that, because we're in this state of uncertainty, and because of those concerns, it's driving people here. And that's why I believe if there is a market turn down, if the nation does run into some issues, I think our microclimate will sustain a little bit longer just because people will continue to come here. And it goes down to the basics of supply and demand. We don't have a whole lot of supply. And if the demand is staying there, not just from the resort side of stuff, but because people want to be political refugees, that's going to maintain our prices of where they're at.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that too and say, several years ago, I think the biggest factor that was keeping people from, maybe excluding retirees, but a younger generation from moving into this area was a lack of workforce, like a lack of jobs in our area here, like to be able to really live here. I know when I moved here back in 2011, that was a big factor for us, was like, are we going to be able to stay here, find employment here? Because it is a small town. But with COVID, that opened up a whole lot of work from home opportunities where, there's a lot of people who, I've got a friend who works for Google, who was living in California, realized I don't have to come into the office anymore. I'm going to move back home to Georgia and be close to my family because I don't ever go into the office. So I think that's opened up a large opportunity for people who are working from home to move into this area. It's a very attractive area to raise a family. It feels very safe. You still see kids biking down the streets and walking to school. And I think that that's a strong pull for just your everyday families that are seeking out a good place to raise their kids as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to take a second here for the people that are jumping on live. Thank you. Appreciate the support. You can send us a message if you have any questions. If you disagree with us, throw it in the comments. We will address it. We are big boys and girls. We can handle any questions that you throw our way. So we just took about 20 minutes and we talked about what the market is, why we think Sandpoint is going to be a stable market as far as prices go. But let's start talking about, what can people expect when they come up here? Is it 2021 when you had to give up your firstborn child, your blood type, and go over asking price? Don't even ask for inspections. You just take the house as it is. Or is it kind of like asking for the moon when, hey, I need a brand new roof and siding and all this, and I want your firstborn child, Mr. Seller. So what type of a market are we seeing right now with negotiations? Because I know you're out there, you're selling, you're in the trenches, you know what's going on.
Yeah, I would say neither of those is true right now. We're definitely in a great market to have negotiations, going on with your offer and throughout the inspection process. I've definitely had, some major concessions given right now for a new roof, that sort of thing, that would have never flown in 2021. But again, not crazy. You can't come in and throw out, if a house is listed at, 430, throw out an offer at 375 and think that the seller is going to say, thank you so much, Mr. Buyer. I will accept it, please and thank you. You do have to be reasonable and respectful in what you're offering. Back up your offer with comps. And if you're reasonable and the people are on the other side are reasonable, I've been very successful at closing multiple deals this year that had multiple different inspection things pop up that we needed to get through. And there's creative ways to get through those, with escrow holdbacks, getting work completed after closing, if it's not affordable for the seller to take on that work. There's all sorts of ways to move through something where it works for both parties and be successful in getting to the closing table.
Yeah, and what I want to ask you now is, there's so many agents up here. There's way too many agents. You can throw a dart at a wall and you're going to hit a real estate agent. When you go to a restaurant and all the businesses put up their business cards, most of that's going to be realtors up here. There's so many up here. So when somebody's hiring an agent up here, what should they be looking for in that agent?
What should they be looking for in that agent? Well, first of all, I think, if you're just looking at, find a Sandpoint realtor online, start with looking for somebody that has a lot of 5-star reviews. Read through the reviews, see what their actual clients say about them. Then I would suggest interviewing multiple agents and, sitting down with them, asking your questions, seeing, first of all, like a lot of it is just even personality. Do you jive with their personality? Because you're going to be working closely with that person throughout your whole process. So, and then of course, you want to make sure that that person is communicative, is responsive to your calls, to your texts, has a firm grasp on what's going on in the housing market, and being able to speak competently to you about that. Look out for people who are just like, oh yes, absolutely, whatever you want. Sure, we can try that low ball offer, because that's not productive for you or for me. I've had to tell multiple people this year, no, I don't think that that's a wise choice for you to make that offer. And here's why. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you come out with that offer, because you're going to offend the seller and it's going to be door slammed in your face. So being able to have somebody who has the competence to speak respectfully, of course, but to be able to advise wisely based on current market conditions, someone who is actively working, who has closed several deals, in the last 12 months. Those are all great places to start.
Yeah, and just remember, guys, Whitney, she's an associate broker. She's gone to more schooling. She is super smart. So, looking for somebody that is an associate broker, I'm not. But somebody like Whitney is definitely a good choice to go with, because, again, they have all that extra schooling and just the knowledge of working with contracts and do's and don'ts. And quick story about do's and don'ts. We had one client, and I guess I'm going out on a limb because if she does see this, she might know that we're talking about her. But this is good to share with everybody. So we have a listing and not happy with the people that are showing up. She sends us a text message and she asks us if we can social profile these people, because on camera, she doesn't, from their appearance, their demeanor, their language, whatever it is, doesn't think that they're qualified to buy the house. So this is something that we cannot do as real estate agents. We'll get our license revoked, suspended, never be able to sell a house again. And then we're in trouble with the feds. And probably, if we're not paying a huge fine, we're going to prison for maybe a little while. So I guess I'm going down this road a little bit, because I guess when you're talking to a real estate agent, is how ethical are they? When you're talking to them, are they saying something that just doesn't seem quite right? Are they willing to bend the rules and just do some shady work? Is guess what I'm saying? And in my opinion, I don't want to work with somebody like that. And I know I've come across 3 people in the last 10 days. I don't know about you, Whitney, as we're on this ethical train, where And we're not going to get too much into the NAR settlement and what that changed in real estate, because again, that's not what this video is about. But again, we're supposed to have a representation agreement to see a house now. And it can be just for 24 hours. It could be just for a specific house. That way we're not tied to one another. But I've come across 3 sets of buyers where they just came from looking at different houses with different agents. And when I say, hey, before we go see this house, let's sign this. And there's more language and explanation, but for the purposes of right now, that's what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have a problem signing this because you explained this really nicely. We understand, but we just saw 3 houses with 3 different agents and they didn't explain this to us and they didn't have us sign this. And again, that can maybe be a red flag for you. For me, it would be is this agent just incompetent? Do I want an incompetent agent when I'm spending all this money? Or is this agent just unethical and willing to go around the rules? And again, do you want to work with somebody like that? So I think that's big too, is when you're talking to these people, like what they're saying and what they're doing, does that jive on how you want to conduct business?
Yeah, and absolutely that agent should be discussing commissions and how they are going to get paid and how they bring value to your life and through this process, and be able to speak competently about the NAR settlement and how that affects you as a buyer or as a seller, because that is key. Like, you have to have a buyer representation agreement signed before you ever step foot into a home with a buyer. You actually can't even go into a home to preview it for a client. If you are entering that home on behalf of a buyer, with your phone, with just to preview, if you're going there not of your own volition, but you're going there on behalf of someone else, you have to have a buyer rep signed. So super concerning if people aren't doing that. Hopefully the MLS, and associations are auditing this. But make sure that the person that you're working with is able to explain the NAR settlement and how that affects you and how they're getting paid, and is super transparent, because that's the whole point of that settlement is adding transparency to the process.
So I want to talk about the future of Sandpoint's real estate, but before we get into that, I actually want to skip ahead. I made some notes to kind of keep me on track, but I want to skip ahead. And what advice do you have for buyers, just to kind of give them an edge, or is there something that you do that kind of gets them an edge by working with you?
Well, yeah, that was going to be my first tip is, pieces of advice. Like, first, make sure that you're hiring a great agent, somebody that you like, that you respect, that you work well with, that you feel like they bring a ton of value and are able to advise you according to current market conditions. You're, as a buyer, most buyers, not everyone, but most buyers are only going to be completing this process maybe a handful of times in their entire life. So having somebody that does this on a day-to-day basis, that has done this year in, year out, and knows the local market, knows different real estate related vendors in our area, has relationships with the other agents in this area, is respected by the other agents in this area, that's already going to give you a leg up. I would also say, on the flip side, hire a competent local lender. Having a local lender is so important. And if you roll into my office and say, I want to use my Wells Fargo, no offense to Wells Fargo, but any sort of a national Chase Bank or any of these big national companies, because I just want to keep it at the same company that my mortgage is already at, I'm going to advise you all day, do not do that, because for those larger companies, they're, the person you're talking to is out of state. They don't have the relationships here with our local appraisers. They don't have the relationships with our local escrow, title and escrow.
They don't understand all the intricacies of North Idaho.
Exactly.
I had one deal where they were insistent on a termite inspection. And it's like, we don't have termites. Like, what do you mean? And I had to bring up articles and everything and show them we don't have termites. And if they wanted a termite inspection, I'll find one, but you're going to pay for their travel. their lodging and everything, because we don't have that in North Idaho.
Right. Yeah. And every time that I've had a deal go south because of financing, without fail, it is some big national lender that's on the other side. And so hiring someone local, your agent should be able to recommend several local lenders that, they've done business with, that they respect and know that they're going to do a good job. My personal favorite is Sean Kramer at Highlands
That's my
Residential.
personal favorite.
I know, but I picked him first. So he has come in and saved the day. I mean, I can literally think of countless transactions, and I know you can too, where he has saved the day for our clients. One, I literally had my clients that I sold their house. And they had been pregnant with twins at the time and had their babies, and they came into signing holding their newborn twin babies. And the other agent called me and said, "Oh my gosh, are you sitting down?" And I was like, what, and she said that the loan was in suspense and she didn't even know what that meant. And they were saying that they might not be able to close it at all. And I said, "Is your client open to switching lenders?" And she said, "Well, I think so. Like, wouldn't it make a huge, wouldn't we just have to start all over again?" And I had that person get in touch with Sean. He got them going and we were able to close 2 weeks later. So,
I remember that.
he's fantastic, but there's several fantastic lenders here. The biggest point that I'm making is like, use a local lender. It will be worth it all day long just to keep you on schedule. And to have an appraiser from this area too. There's a lot of these out of state lenders that are pulling in appraisers out of Washington, and they don't know our local market, and you end up with appraisal issues almost every time.
I just did a HELOC on my property, and they kept trying to pull somebody from Washington, and I said, "Nope, throw it back in the system." Another guy picks it up. It's from Washington. Nope, put it back in the system. And I finally called the third party company and I said, "Listen, if they're from Washington, don't even bother. It has to be somebody from Sandpoint, not even Coeur d'Alene. I do not want a Coeur d'Alene person," because the first person that they assigned to me, they said in the notes, because it was $1,000, $1,200, whatever, I'll pay it. And that is high, in case you're watching. That's a high appraisal, but they said it was that much because it was a rural property on acreage, and it's like, you're in Sandpoint. Like, that's
Right.
going to be the majority of the houses. What you're telling me right now, it's not a track home that you can drive 5 minutes to, and you can pull up 50 comps in 5 minutes. And it's like, I do not want that person. So that's great advice. And let's take another second here, because I do want to wrap this up here soon, cover a couple more things. But hey, if you're on this live, super appreciated that you jumped on. If you have questions about anything, about buying, the market, looking for certain things in a realtor, drop us a comment. We'll answer it. If you disagree with us, drop a comment in there and we can have a talk. It's fun to engage. It's fun to have different opinions. Just be nice and polite. If you're going to be rude, we won't engage with you. So just ask for kindness and a nice conversation. So getting back to what you're doing specifically, because we work closely, we do a lot of same things together. What I think that works really nice, before you and I, not every case, but most cases, before somebody wants to go see a house, we schedule a meeting and we talk about what they can expect, not only just from us, but from the market, because the market changes. We could be in this balanced market now, but then a month from now, we could be in a seller's or a buyer's market. It can flip quickly. So it's important when you're buying up in North Idaho and buying in general, is sitting down and having that conversation with your real estate agent. And again, we're going over expectations from us, because I know, Whitney, you're like me, at 6 o'clock, the phone goes in do not disturb. Doesn't mean that we won't get back to you past that time, but our communication just could be slower. And that's good to know, because if we're working with somebody brand new and they text us at 7 because that's the better time for them, but we never tell them, like, hey, our communication is going to be slowed down between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m., Well, now there's going to be some doubt on that side, like, Ben's not getting back to me quickly, and what's going on. So again, it's setting those expectations of what you can expect from us, what you can expect from the market. When we do get under contract, because we had this conversation, you already know in this hypothetical scenario I'm talking about, you can't ask for the moon because we're not in that market. It's let's look at some aspects of the inspection report and let's ask for that stuff so we don't piss off the other side. We keep them happy and we put something together that matches our market. But let's back up just a little bit. When you have a buyer, Whitney, you write that offer, you submit it. What do you do? Do you call Sean and tell him who the listing agent is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're working with Sean, then
Not the buyer. You're calling the listing agent. What do you have Sean do?
Oh, yeah, I have Sean call the listing agent and make sure that, he's communicating with them directly, saying, that these people are well qualified, talking about, any pertinent details regarding whether they have a home sale contingency or, anything pertaining to their qualifications. But just going an extra step, sending that listing agent not just the offer, but an outlined email with the highlights of the offer, giving them a call, talking through the offer, having Sean call, just lots and lots of communication. I know that as the listing agent, I super appreciate that. It almost never happens.
I end up calling as the listing agent, the lender, the vet, to make sure my seller, when I can go to them like solid buyers, this is what's going on, just to give my sellers the confidence. And this is huge. Like we're giving out a few secrets right now that other agents, they can jump on, they can still do it because it makes the product working with Realtor better. So go ahead and steal this if you're an agent, that's fine. But this is gold. I can't tell you how many times I've had Sean call somebody, answer all the questions for the listing agent, say, yes, these are solid buyers, steady jobs, been there forever, just good, you're getting a good buyer. And then I get a response, or Sean will call me and say, they were super impressed, like that I called them, that I'm even communicating with them. And then I'll get a call from the listing agent, like, hey, I just talked to Sean, great dude, really excited about these buyers. And just that reaction from the listing agent is huge, because now he's going to go to his sellers and be like, if there's multiple offers, he's going to be thinking about us because we had Sean call, assure any questions that they had. And then I know the way that we present offers, and we won't get into that because that's boring. You guys don't care about that. But the way that we present our offers, because we have a system and process of how we do everything, that just adds to the fuel of like, these guys know what they're doing. They're professional. There's not going to be any issues. And so when you couple that with Sean giving them a call is huge.
Yeah. I'll say like just reputation too. Like I've always said, like my reputation matters more than any deal that I'll ever be involved in. It's not worth it to me to close on a deal and do something shady. I've had to tell my own clients before.
Tell the story. Just don't say the name.
I'll tell a story where, I listed a place. We said it was turnkey and the sellers didn't want to take anything out of there. They said, oh, everything can stay. Sold very quickly. And I ended up doing the walkthrough with the buyers, even though they were not my client, because the agent was out of town on vacation. And so I said, sure, I'll step in and do the walkthrough with them. And as they're walking through the home, they realized that a couple of pieces of furniture were missing. And I won't go into the details of what furnishings and all of that, but there were some things that were missing. I said, so it seems you're correct. They pulled up the MLS photos, and then of course they were nitpicking every little thing, and the coffee maker's different, and lots of things had been changed. And I had to call my clients, and my clients didn't want to do anything about it. They said, well, that's we said we were going to take this and we were going to take that. And I said, well, we did not say that. We advertised it as turnkey and said that all furnishings were included. And these were in the MLS photos, so you need to leave them. And they were like, well, we're not going to do that. We're keeping them. That's not for them. And I said, okay, well then I need you to send me the make and model of each piece of furniture that you took, because I will personally be purchasing a replacement for those out of my commission. And they said, well, no, we don't want you to do that. Like, that's not right. You shouldn't have to do that. And I said, it absolutely is right, because we promised in our legally binding contract that we were going to be leaving every piece of furniture. And, it's worth it to me to lose out on commission, but to maintain the respect of these people and the agent on the other side. And I think it's those little things like that, which, by the way, ending that story, they did end up bringing those furnishings back. And, once they saw it that way, they said, well, we don't want you to do that. We'll bring it back. And everything was fine. But, with enough of those little things over time, I think, you earn and maintain a level of respect in the industry that's so important. I can't tell you how many times I've had the agent on the other side, even in multiple offer situations, which this is where it's really important. And, say that you have several agents that are presenting offers on a property, but I've had agents say, like, I'm going to advise my clients to pick this one because I know that you're going to be ethical and operate through this whole thing. You're going to be communicative. Everything's easy, not to say that, you're not fighting for your side, but you care just as much about my clients and their future as you do your own. And I know that this is going to be something that is full of integrity from start to finish if you're on the other side of it. And so that's important to look for in anybody that you're working with.
Yeah, definitely. So just recap a couple of things that we went over that you do specifically to really get people on the edge, especially in today's market. It's the prep work up front, doing that meeting. It's how you present the offer. It's how you utilize your lender to reach out when you present that offer. You understand what the market is. You stay up to date of what's going on. You're actively selling, so you know how to advise your clients as you're going through the deal.
Let me add one thing into that, because it's not all about just the presentation of the offer and the market conditions, but there's also knowing the ins and outs of our local area too, and being able to advise clients accordingly. There's plenty of people that say, Whitney, I want to buy this 10-acre parcel and I want to subdivide it and keep the house on 5 and sell 5. And then I can be, living there essentially free. And being able to look at that and say, actually, you can't do that because this is zoned R10 and you're not able to subdivide it. Or, I want to be able to put a shop here. Well, actually, you're probably not going to be able to put a shop there because that's wetlands. And if you bring in dirt to fill, then you've got to buy credits with the Corps of Engineers. It's going to be very expensive. Like, there's a lot of unique things to Sandpoint and Bonner County that, like wetlands, like our zoning, that, wells, septic, knowing the ins and outs of all of those things. And even just certain areas, there's certain areas that we're aware of that, well, if you're buying a bare piece of land and it doesn't have a well on it, be very, very careful, because that area is known for not having good wells. And if you look at the surrounding parcels, there's a bunch of dry holes or 1 gallon a minute wells, and, be aware of these things before you purchase. So that's another piece that we do as buyer's agents in advising you as you're seeking out the perfect property to call home.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's end this real quick with, what do you think the future is going to hold in real estate? And before you answer that, Sean and I, we did a video about a month and a half ago, and we talked about interest rates and when we are going to start seeing a buying frenzy. So I'm guessing right now I'm giving my answer of what's happening, the future of Sandpoint's real estate. And I believe I said at 6%, when the mortgage rates hit 6%, we're going to see this buying frenzy. I think he had 5.5%. And I still hold true to what I said a month and a half ago, that at 6%, we're going to see nice buying frenzy might be a little weird because we're going into winter right now, and that's where rates are headed. They're headed down to 6 and that 5.5% rate. But I don't see a change of people wanting to be here, of this being a destination. So I think we're going to continue seeing a strong market. I think we are going to see a little craziness here sooner than later. And craziness as meaning things are going to pick up quicker. And if you have a smaller budget, if you don't have as much of a down payment, if you're not paying with cash, it might be a little bit harder than it has in the last 18 months. So that's kind of what I'm predicting. Do you kind of agree? Do you see something else?
No, I would say that for the most part, I agree. I would probably say, well, I'm already starting to see some multi-offer situations that are coming into play with properties that are really well priced. And we are starting to see some price reductions because of the time of year that we're in, where sellers are saying, if I don't sell this now in the next month to 2 months, depending on what the weather does, then I'm probably going to be holding on to this property until the spring, because that's just the nature of our local market. Once the snow hits and is sticking, our market kind of dies here. And, for a good reason. You can't really see what you're buying when it's under 2 feet of snow. So, there is an uptick already. I think that as interest rates come down, which as of right now, it looks like that's what they are starting to trend to do, which we've been waiting on for a couple of years, that will mean more buyers jumping into the market, increase in demand, and that is going to send the prices up as demand goes up. So I would say it probably will, like, you'll start to see a few more multi-offer situations. There's a lot of people that are hesitant, maybe because of the election. Sure, that I think maybe people will stay hesitant until after the election, but not in all cases. There's plenty of cash buyers that are making offers right now and closing deals, and plenty of people using lending too. I like to tell people, like, if you look at the last 50 years on a graph of what housing prices have done, there's only been 2 significant dips in that 50-year time frame. So, even if, let's say, all what breaks loose after November and the economy crashes, and sure, maybe you're stuck in that home a little bit longer, and it depends on everybody's situation. I tell people, like, does this home work for you in your current life stage? Is this going to work for you if you are stuck in the home? Maybe you're planning on being there 2 to 5 years. Maybe if it crashes, you'll be there 5 to 10 years, but it will eventually recover, because that's just the nature of real estate. And we have, 50, 60 years of data backing that up. Real estate is generally a very stable investment. So, I think that it's very optimistic for this area. I don't see any crash in the foreseeable future. It's now, I would say, don't wait if you're looking to buy, and now is a good time. You're probably in the best spot to be in right now, as sellers are looking at winter staring them down, with being more motivated. And we still have pretty high interest rates, where if you can stomach that interest rate for a short term, you're probably going to get the best buy right now on your purchase price, and then just plan to refi as those rates continue to come down. And in a couple of years, hopefully you'll have a decent purchase price and a better interest rate.
Yep, definitely. All right. I want to thank everyone for jumping on. Next week, which is, I don't know, let me pull up the calendar real quick. So next week on the 9th at 11 o'clock, Sean Kramer and I, we are going to be going live. We're going to be talking about the 5 mistakes people make when they're getting a loan. And as we go into probably a shift here sooner than later, knowing these 5 mistakes and avoiding them is going to be huge. That way you can be in the best position possible to make a purchase. And I'll just close out with this. When you avoid those mistakes and then you sit down with your real estate agent, hopefully it's going to be Whitney, hopefully it's going to be me, but if it's going to be somebody else, sit down with them, have a 30-minute conversation about expectations of that agent and what's going on with the market. Those 2 things are going to be huge in your successful and enjoyable closing of a house. Thank you, Whitney, for joining us today. We're going to have you back many, many more times because your insight is invaluable, and we appreciate you jumping on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye.